Hi YouTube, welcome back to Someone's PC. And today I'm going over the Trafalgar Law deck that I used to make top 8 at the Pro Play Games case tournament. And it had like over 130 players or whatever. And as you know, I've been playing Luffy for like quite some time, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to play Luffy for the tournament. And in general, I'm just not really confident in the skill gap that you can create between Luffy mirrors. And I haven't nailed it down where I feel like I would actually have an advantage on another Luffy player if I was piloting the deck. So I decided to go back to my roots, to a deck that I was testing for probably like 3 weeks, about a month ago, or right when the card game first dropped in English. So I played it pretty rusty. I don't think I played all that well this tournament. I know that's sounds ridiculous considering I still got top 8, but like sometimes you make mistakes, notice them. They weren't like the most optimal you can make, especially with this deck, which I believe has the highest skill floor and the highest skill ceiling in the game. And yeah, I mean, we got some stuff to go over today. So I'm gonna go over the list. I'm gonna make it fairly quick because I understand that this video is intended to like show people how to play the deck, but it's not more so about the list, but more about how you progress early turns in the game in order to like find success. I made a post on Facebook regarding all my matchups. I'll be honest, I just play against Kid all day. One Law Mirror, one Zoro, and then 3 Kaidos, 2 of which I saw in top 16. So I was able to beat 1 and then 2 out of 3. I won 2-1, and then I was able to lose the other one 1-2. Going literally into time, and then him using Kaido's ability to burn me for my last life. So like, you know, kudos to them. That player ended up getting second. I believe he was piloting his deck as well as you could. Honestly, it's Kaido. They just understand they hit island and high drops. They high roll the game. They beat you anyways. And I think it's just like kind of how the matchup goes. So let's get into it. We played Law. If you don't know Law's ability, he says if you have 5 characters, you can pay 2 to take a character, put it back into your hand, any of your character you have on board, and replace it with a character that's 5 cost or lower of a different color. Meaning like red turns into green, green turns into red, and that's why the deck is so complicated to pilot, because of the color you're switching and the cards you want to go into. Obviously, I'll discuss what you're going to put into later on. Right. So at the gate, you're playing red. You're playing red, so you should be playing 4 Nami. She helps you search all your Straw Hats. You should also be playing 4 Bonnie. It's probably one of the best cards in the game. It helps you search all your Supernovas. This includes Luffy and Jet Pistol and Zoro. So that's another reason why you play this card. It's absolutely broken. We're trying to rush to 5 characters on board, so you'll see we'll have a lot of 1-drops and a lot of 2-cost cards in this deck. So the next one being 4 Capones. Easy, it's a blocker, it's a Supernova. 4 Choppers, found by Nami. 1, it's red. This is core. All this right here is core. You do not play this deck without playing this here. I ended up only playing 2 Otamas. The list that one played 4. He also played 4 or 3? It's 3. I think it's 3. Momonosuke. And it's able to search your deck for a Wano card, which is, for him in particular, only Otama and Cat Viper and Momonosuke himself. And in this case, you know, people are they're gonna be asking, did you want more? Did you want less? Is 2 good enough? I'll be honest, I never used Otama plus Jet Pistol in the same turn. I had issues drawing Otama, and when I did, I drew her back to back. She whiffed at she made my Nami whiff at times when I'd rather this just be a Straw Hat Usopp, and I'll go over that later on when I get to Usopp. But you can increase this count, you can decrease this count. You could play 0, which I kind of don't agree with, and then you could play 4, which I also kind of don't agree with. You'll find with this deck, the colors are so broken that you're playing that anyone saying you absolutely cannot play this card, you absolutely should play this card, are kind of trolling. It's just a personal preference that they're making, and it's not core to the deck. But the only changes you should ever make to the deck are ones where you're suffering consistency in terms at a cost for tech. And as you saw, the list that won, not only was a pilot absolutely phenomenal, his deck list was extremely consistent and extremely strong, and focused on finding your pieces, getting 5 on board, and then comboing out using your leader's ability. So enough of that. I'll go over cards later on. For Brook, same thing. It's a 2-drop Straw Hat. It's searchable by Nami, and its ability of when it comes onto the board lets you take 2 tap Dawn and put onto your character is very, very useful, especially on your 5-drop Luffy, which we'll go over in a bit. I, in particular, played 4 Killer. They're the block killers. They say Dawn 1, when you block with this card, when you have 3 or more on board, you draw a card. You should always have 5 on board, or hopefully always have 5 on board, so you'll be using this quite often. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I wouldn't play less than 3. If you're not playing any, that's one of those, like, I get it, it might not be core, but it's pretty close. This card's insane. My initial list didn't have Cat Vipers in it. I just played Ezos, and after seeing how Cat Viper performed in this tournament, I probably want to up this count to 3, maybe even 4. At that point, I might as well be running Momo. I'm still uncertain on this count, but great card, 2 cost. It's green. Let's go. The final card was 1 Usopp. So right before the tournament started, I was choosing between Cat Viper count, Nekomamushi count, Cat Viper, Usopp count, Otama count, Ezo count, and my 3-drop killer count. I wanted to add more 3-drop killers because I believed I would see more Zoro throughout the tournament, if not a little bit more Kid. I believe Kid's already favored for us in the matchup. However, whatever. I just ended up playing with a killer because I can high roll it out of my security. Maybe I was feeling crazy. Looking back, I just wanted more of this. He won me games by himself a few times. I want to up this count, and I'll probably drop the killers to add another copy of this. You play this over the Sanji because you'll never use the Sanji's effect. You might actually use this card's effect. Like, you might use this against someone who's still playing Purple Blue Croc or something in this meta, right? But, you know, draw some cards. For Zoro, I think this is core. I would never drop down to 3. Yeah, Rush, it swings. This is one of the main cards you need to loop off of your 5-drop law. Card's amazing. 3 Ezo, the winning list didn't play any. I loved it because it's a 2K counter, and I do believe you'll fall into some scenarios where you might get like just completely swung at over and over and over again, and you need more 2K counters in your deck in order to help balance that out. And you also wanted to use them for some sort of, like, you know, on play effect and getting the Cat Viper out, value out of it. I can see this going down to 2 in place of a Cat Viper, or in place of the Usopp that I was talking about, or in place of Otama. It's really not like you must be playing this or you should not be playing this, as I went over earlier. It's just, what are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice the Dawn you're paying to play the character to get the effect out of it versus getting a 2K counter in your hand, and so on, right? So if you swap these out, you can swap them with non-2K counters, but you kind of always want to have around 10 to 11 in the deck no matter what. These are the 2 killers that I argued about earlier, the ones that I played with the Usopp and the Nekomamushi numbers. It came up once in a matchup against Zoro. I don't think it was all that useful all throughout the day. These are definitely cuttable. These are not core. I played 2. Woohoo, right? You have 4 Laws. Amazing card. Absolutely broken. You need to play 4. Don't touch this. He says when you play him down, you can bounce one of your characters on your board and then play any character, including the one you just bounced back, of 3 or lower back onto the board. So a common play is you play Law, you bounce back your Bonnie, and then you replace your Bonnie with a Zoro, and then Zoro swings. Another play is you bounce back your Nami with your leader's ability to play in your Law, and then Law will bounce back another character, sometimes Brook, sometimes Usopp, whatever, it doesn't really matter, and then replace it with a Zoro and then swing that way. Right before the tournament started, I went down from 4 Luffy to 3, and I did not hate it. I love 3 Luffy. I know a couple players only went down to 2, possibly even 1. I don't believe we can sacrifice that level of aggression, especially in a format where we have mirror matches, Zoro, and Purple to play into. And this card's phenomenal in mirror, and you need to see it. And I wouldn't play less than 3 right now. It's not core. Again, it's the same discussion I'll be having this entire video. It's how much do you feel like putting in rush or tech against the consistency of you hitting the rest of your pieces. And I want to see this card, and I need to see this card. I don't want to do that at 2. I don't want to feel weird about it. 3's fine. 4 felt like too much. Finally, the last thing is 2 Trafalgar Law from the starter deck. This is your end game, like, Superman punch. This is you take all your Dawn, put it on your Luffy, and you swing in for 8 Dawn on him. So it's like a lot. Sure, 14. So like you swing 14 at your opponent. They obviously take the hit because it's 14, and like you've been grinding them out of resources all game. You pay 2, Shambles back, one of your red characters on board, maybe even Brook, because like you could pay 2 Brook and then put the Dawn onto Luffy, so that way he was free to play in. You can Shambles it back, play in your Restanding Law, restand your Luffy, and then swing again for 14. That is the Superman combo punch, 2-piece. Let him have it. It's the Hardy's biscuit. Like it's everything you need in this deck, and this is exactly why I play 2. You can cut down to 1. I don't want to miss it. I want to be able to discard this card as a 1k counter out of my hand and know that I will be able to find another one later on in the game. Last is 3 Jet Pistol. It is a Straw Hat. It is a Supernova. You can grab it with anything that searches in the deck. It pops cards. It wins the mirror. It wins versus Zoro. The camera's wigging out because of the lighting in here, but I kind of want to drop down to 2. I saw it far too often. I didn't have time to play it in some matchups, and I didn't have the Dawn excess to create an advantage for myself that I couldn't create already via the board pressure that I was putting on. So that's the deck list. I will link my deck list to PPG's site or like their Google Drive, whatever they have up. So that way, if you just want to see this and I watch this full video, I'll have a link there. So lastly, I'm going to make another video on the matchups. What I wanted to do is go over like common mulligans and common open and starter hands and common ways to kind of play the deck. So to start out, you're mulliganing for Nami and Bonnie. That's it. So Nami, Bonnie. You have to understand the fact that you're playing 4 life does make a huge difference in this game. This is the difference between getting an extra card draw throughout the course of a game that you're guaranteed to hit no matter what, and like being so close to losing at every point in the game. You need to realize you need to take risks and you need to keep a certain amount of blockers on board. So how I usually play is I'll mulligan for these 2. Ideally, you'll hit like an insanely cracked opening hand and be able to find something of this level, like that, where like if you're able to go turn 1, play a Nami finds a Chopper, pass it, then you go up to 3 Dawn, next turn you go Chopper, Bonnie, Capone, and then you're like, wow, this is crazy, and now you have 4 characters on board. On going first and going odds, you swing at your opponent, and then you're like, all right, cool. Blah blah blah. They do whatever back to you. You start into your turn. You're now at 5 Dawn, and you can go Zoro ping in, and then pay 2 Shambles, Bonnie or Nami into one of your 5 drops. Drop them onto the board and start swinging out from there. So that is the perfect opening hand, or the perfect progressed curve as well. But like that's not gonna happen every single time. I mean, I think some of the games I lost was strictly because I just didn't see Bonnie, or I strictly saw one Bonnie and my opponent was intelligent enough to tap it down with Nekomamushi and then immediately smack it before I used it. This is a use case that people need to play into. You are playing a 4 life leader. You're taking risks already playing this deck. Stop playing this deck like a bitch, okay? If you put these out and then your opponent has like a character, you know, like maybe they put out on like turn 2 and they're going second, and then you put 4 more characters out and you didn't hit or like you just hit your 1 Chopper blocker already, right? And they're like, oh, swing into your life. You took the first hit and they swing into your life again, and you're like, I'm scared of going down at 2 because I might get lethal again in the future. Just take the hit. Just like understand that you're already playing at a disadvantage when it comes to life, and you can fight for that later on with the blockers, with all the blockers you have in the list, in order to like make a comeback, or if not, create a giant wall where it's going to be very, very annoying for them to try and get in at you. So you're going to be okay with taking some swings early, and you have to realize that your goal is to hit 5 characters on board in probably every single matchup except for purple. Kaido in particular, right? Because if King was really a deck, we'd all be calling it King, right? So ideally against Kaido, I shouldn't really be talking. I should just say this in the next video. Just swing at him. Just crack him in the mouth. On turn 5, just if you can get to your Luffy down and swing with it and have 2 blockers to protect it, you're big chilling. Okay, and yeah, so that's how you're gonna play some of the Kaido matchups. But again, I should just keep going over this deck, right? So you're mulliganing for Bonnie. You're mulliganing for Nami. On turn 2, you're looking at a hand, and you're like, this hand's kind of awkward. And I'm going second. what should I be doing like in this scenario? Where they're like, oh, okay, this is so easy. It's like you have two, you should immediately put out like your two 1K costs. And it's like, no, actually, you should just put the killer out into play. And the reason being is you have the likelihood of going into next turn and being like at 4 Dawn, where you can go Bonnie, Chopper. Let's say you hit like a Capone or something, and then you can now afford, with 3 other characters on board, to pay the 1 for Bonnie to search another character and go into your 6 Dawn turn knowing you're going to hit your 5 near no matter what. This is a use case I kind of put myself in, so that way they're going to target down the Bonnie and not target down my life. But I'm already able to like establish a set amount of blockers, or like, you know, swap this out with a Nami, or swap this out with an Otama. That was a common play I made where because I just opened up Otama and I know I need to hit 5 next turn and it's going to get weird, I'm just going to go ahead and put her out. And like, it doesn't matter when I neg DP, sometimes I don't even have a character, I just didn't really care. I just wanted Otama out and I wanted to swing and do heavy damage. So this is a bait. This is me telling them, you are now free to swing in my Bonnie. I don't care. It's worth it for me to search for a law because you need to see this no matter what, kind of. It's weird. This deck has so much going for it. Like, to say you absolutely need to see this card is a stretch. However, I felt really, really strong whenever I saw this card, and if Bonnie hit and I didn't have one of these already in my hand, I just instantly grabbed this no matter what. So if that doesn't explain my thinking when we're going into this, then I don't know what the fuck will, right? So they're going to take their next turn. Leader's going to swing on Bonnie, and they're going to sit there and debate like you're going to block it. You're not going to. Just let it go, okay? Because more things can happen where their characters are going to swing at your Bonnie, and you can't afford to lose your blockers on currently on play. If they swing at your life, you're able to look again for a pistol, luck sack it, hit one of their characters that maybe they played, maybe they're being stupid, they're playing characters before swinging at you and swinging at life, right? And you're able to pop something. If not, you can grab one of the cards and go get another +1 after the 1-for-1 Bonnie just accrued you off of doing this. But she absorbed a swing and acted like a blocker. And you need these, the blockers in the future, to protect your swings that are coming out. So you need to play like you understand you're going to get swung at. You're just trying to get to 5 characters. You need to think ahead of time with like your optimal Dawn count on your turn 5, turn 6, and turn 7 in order to make the most solid play possible. So if you have scenarios like this where like instead of Otama, we have like Neko Mamushi, and we know we're going to be able to shambles this turn. How do we get the most value out of it? How do we attach Dawn correctly so that we don't end with any open Dawn, but still feel like we used our shambling in the best value possible? Well, to simplify it, take 2 Dawn, put it to the side. That's for shambles, okay? Next up is how many times can I swing for 5 here? And if that sounds good, equivalent to the number of blockers your opponent has on board, then go usually with that game plan. Next up, when you're swinging for 5, think about what color you're swinging with for the character, right? So sometimes here people will be like, oh, you just go like to a Neko Mamushi, swing in for 5. Then Zoro, so like swing in for, 7, maybe even 6 here or whatever, and then shambles, and then pop back to Zoro to play in a Law, and then Law's gonna pop this up and then go into a Zoro here. But that only works if I have a Law in hand, right? So sometimes you need to catch yourself where you're thinking, okay, I'll be able to like have this board, but maybe I don't have Law, I just have Luffy, and so I'll get more value out of like putting the 5 here, swinging with it, shambling, especially against red, because you can hit in a jet pistol. So you need to shambles now before they remove a character on board and mess up your whole down count, and then put in the character now and then start establishing my board state, right? Again, when you have killer on board, you can just do the same level of thinking. I can take the 1 Dawn that's could swing in for 6, and I'll put that to the side. That's going to go on the killer at the end of the turn. And that's how you get more efficient, more effective turns. The best cards to pop back, the cards you want to add back into your hand, are going to be Bonnie, and they're going to be Nami. This is how I beat some of the Kaido Dark Hole plays. You take your Bonnie and Nami, always keep them in your hands. The turn you're going into a 7-drop King and a 10-drop Kaido. You need to be able to keep these in your hand at all times, so that way you can stabilize after they clear your board. Once you get to 10 Dawn, you're in a whole nother realm of being able to search, draw cards, and make big plays that no other deck can in this current format. Like, it's its ability to shambles and then to have the restanding Law next to an unblockable Luffy should feel like you've like unlocked a new level, a Super Saiyan level or some garbage like that, right? To in order to just swing in and do damage. And the best simplified gameplay is if you have enough blockers on board to support your swings, don't be afraid to just pick up your Dawn and swing in for massive numbers here. Also, don't be afraid to block during your opponent's turn to drop to less 5 characters as opposed to countering power out of your hand. So you'll find in some times when like you'll get swung at 5s, you know, like chump swing 6s, maybe you don't have your Law out on board yet, and you'll be like, oh, I don't have a Donner or my killer, I can't draw a card if I block with it. I always think, what color don't I need to shambles out back to my hand next turn by looking at the other 5 drops in my hand, and I'll be like, oh, I'll just block with this one, right? And I'll do this to save a 2k counter in my hand to get rid of the body now, because I have so much Dawn next turn. I have no problem paying 1, playing this Nami that I have in my hand, using it to search another card. Hopefully it was Usopp, because I really like that, and I thought it did a lot of value for me in the future. And then shambling it away and turning to this Law or the restanding Law. Or if I know that I wanted to get into my other Luffy that I might have in my hand or my other Zoro, then I'll just block with a Chopper instead. And then that can go into like the Nami here, and I can bounce this back, play this one in. And you see where I'm getting with this? Like if you're going to, you're going to Bonnie next turn, then you're going to swap it out for a red card. Or if you're going to Law next turn, then you need to have a red card that you want back in your hand as a searcher in order to swap out for your Law, and vice versa. So easiest way, most simplified way to put it is take 2 Dawn, put it to the side, that's your shambles count. Think of how many times you can go for 5, then how many times you can go for 7, or how many times you can go for 9, depending on the board state. I think that's kind of it. The deck is super complicated in terms of piling just because of the color ratios, and like when you need to bounce back a red and swap it out with a green, or you're not like taking the 1 extra Dawn that you need to put on Luffy swinging for 7, but you're like, oh, but now his ability's not even online, so let me go up to 8. And then you can start working in like combos off of your Brook that could be a lot more valuable to you. And I think people get stun locked when they get put into a tight position with only 1 life left or 2 lives left, and not thinking what they ideally want to end on. For me, if I swung 3 to 4 times and then ended on triple blocker, I had a very productive turn. I also don't mind going like Nami, search my card, I already have an extra Nami in hand, and I know I'm going to get like heavily pressured next turn, just immediately paying 1, throwing away the Nami, and then replacing her with like a Tony Chopper or a Capone that I might have had in my hand, because I know I need to make sure I don't get popped. I'll go over stuff in the matchups in the next video because I don't be super long, but having multiple Laws on board makes me feel unstoppable. Having Luffy plus Zoro plus like this kind of setup makes me feel like these guys are super expendable, and these are only expendable when I know that the pressure that's I'm going to take from taking a life back is going to lose me near the end game. After doing this combo a bunch of times, if you God draw the setup I just went over earlier, you're probably like +6, +8 cards in your hand on your opponent, as well as 5 characters on board. And so you're just kind of always protecting this card, no matter what, and beating their face in with it. If you have an extra one in hand, I like to like use 1 blocker to try and protect it, have them invest heavy resources next in with like this kind of board to make them be like, oh, at least I get a Law with this trade, right? And I just kind of like, yeah, let them take the Luffy. And the next turn you just, play down this, play down Bonnie, shambles with Bonnie back, go grab the Luffy, and then, swap this out for another Beige or Capone or something else. If you already had the Beige and didn't need to go +1 on cards with your Nami, then you can do that instead. I hope this was helpful. I hope people try out this deck. It is very thought intensive, very high skill ceiling, very low skill floor. I mess up with it all the time, and I'm cocky as shit. I think I'm a really good player, and I will get stun locked with this deck a bunch of times. I will play, make great plays, pass my opponent, look down and be like, oh, I had another route where I could have like attached 2 Dawn here instead and took like 7 twice. Why didn't I see that? Like, that was stupid. And then just try and download that, learn it for the future. The matchup video is coming. I'm probably going to make that tomorrow night. It's just getting a little late here right now. But thank you for watching. You can check me out on my stream at twitch.tv /purpleheracross. And yeah, fun tournament, fun deck. The deck list isn't perfect. I don't think any is. It's just preference of trading tech for consistency. The guy who won, he piloted it so well. My God, if you go back on my stream VODs and watch me watch like the stream, the Pro Play game stream, I was like, he should do this here. And he takes like 2 to 3 seconds, takes back a Dawn, makes the play out. I was like, this dude's so good. Like, he's amazing. He's gonna win this whole tournament. Like, no shot. Like, he's playing well. His deck's consistent. It's very, very strong. So, I hope that helped. If you have comments like, would you take out this card for this card, this card? I'm going to answer you the same way. I don't necessarily hate it. I just think, like, I went with this on feeling that I'm going to see a lot of Zoro. The killers can come out. Hey, so this is Russell from the future. I finished my video last night and forgot to mention something super important in the deck that I definitely wanted to include in the video. And that's that you can fail the replay of the character off of Law, either Law. So, let's say you have 5 characters on board, and you're progressing your turn. You have almost no cards in hand, and you start your turn out, and it looks like something like this. Maybe you used your blocker, maybe you didn't. Who cares, right? You discarded it to power counter out. You can pay to use your Shambles ability, add back like your Nami to your hand, and then fail replaying the next card. It's a May. And then you can just pay 1 and play Nami back out. What does this do for you? It nets you a +1 card, and it takes it removes the fact that you always feel the need to conserve your hand, as well as you can protect a board pop you absolutely know is coming. So let's say you're super lucky in an amazing position like this, and then your opponent throws down like a Nico Robin. You know you're going to lose your Nami no matter what. So at the end of the turn, if you have 2 Dawn left over because you didn't use it all getting a board like this for whatever reason, it comes up from time to time. You can pay to add this back to your hand, not use the ability to play in a green card. You also may have a handful of red or a handful of green and don't have the ability to Shambles back in a different color, so you can just add this back, fill the second part of it, pay for play in a new one. Happens to me all the time. I think I did it like 4 times throughout the tournament. You can do the same thing with this Law as well. You can play it down, add back a card, and just choose not to play it back in. Super, super, super useful. It's a way for when you have grindy games to gain hand advantage back, as well as like utilizing your Dawn and your leader's ability to the full extent to push aggression. So, I mean, you could have a board like this, Dawn here, Dawn here, Dawn here, leave 5 open, swing in, 5 with Zoro, pay 2, Shambles it back, fail the second half, pay 3, replay the Zoro, swing the Zoro again. Happens, definitely useful. Bye. I was actually going to end this video before going over the other cards you can add as tech. So, I don't mind if you play this, just play 3 to 4 of them, especially in combination with more copies of this. I'm probably going to go up on 3 to this, and I want at least 2 no matter what for this. You can play Bartholomew for an extra blocker. He's a supernova. You can find him. He's 2-drop. This is basically like a red killer that doesn't draw you a card, and that's how it should feel. The winning list play 1 Nico Robin. The other list I made top 4 plays 1 Nico Robin. I used to play 2 Nico Robin. I just felt like she didn't do enough most of the time when she was on board for me, and I'd rather just luck sack with killer. But I mean, again, I can't get mad at you for trying to play this. I don't think she's all that valuable in terms of like other cards that could be consistent. And I kind of made up my mind that like the killer spots and the Nekomamushi spots were like my tech ideas. And I'm considering putting 1 of her back in. I think 2's too much, but whatever. What do I know, right? 4th Luffy. You can do this if you want to. You don't need to. 8-drop Kid. Do you need to play 8-drop Kid? Fuck no. Card sucks. Okay. It's not time. It's not time to do it in this deck. If you want to play 8-drop Kid, go play Green Kid. Go play Protect the Kid deck, right? You will lose games because you have an 8-drop Kid in your hand and it can't get you 5 on board, and you're drawing like Laws and Luffy's plus 8-drop Kid. And I find myself in a lot of scenarios where if I got to that late, I'm better off punching my opponent in the face and trying to game them and have them come after my board again the following turn because of all the blockers I have, than I do having like locking them up over the 8-drop. I don't like using the card gamer terminology win more, but that's what that card is in this deck. It is a win more card. You do not need it. Radical Beam, you can definitely play this. I just didn't want to. I wanted characters. I wanted to hit my 5 on board. I think I did that fairly well, fairly consistently. I wish I drew money more. I'm going to bitch about that all day because I feel like I didn't draw it enough. But yeah. Last one's Yamato. You can play Yamato, sure, whatever. You just won't get the rush you get out of Luffy, and you won't get the sweet shambles combos you get with Zoro. And maybe you're playing it in place of like one of the other tech cards that I'm playing, but at least the other tech cards I'm playing don't cost 5. So you're killing your consistency of trying to hit 5 characters on board. So that's the end of the video. Thank you for checking me out or checking out someone's PC. Good lord. One love, and then I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.